Welcome, community. This is the special board meeting, Superintendent Search, on June 11th, 2026, and we are convening at 6:04 p.m. The call to order is 6:04 p.m. Please rise for the flag salute.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Ms. Ellinger, are there any announcements?
Just the one that Trustee Tang.
Yep.
Other than that, no
Okay, so
announcements.
Trustee Tang is not here today. She will not be able to attend, but she will be following and listening to the recording afterwards. Any speakers wishing to address the board?
President Costa, there are not.
Okay. Well, with that, we are moving on to the topic of this evening, which is BRSSD and Human Capital Enterprises Planning Session. I'd like to welcome Human Capital Enterprises, HCE, and we look forward to getting the search started, and with that, the planning session. So I give it to you. Give the mic to you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Great. Well, thank you so much for having us this evening, and we're really excited to get this work started. In fact, we've begun already. So let's see. Kirsten, would you please project our agenda for the meeting? Thank you so much. So we've got introductions on there, and I suppose for folks that might be watching remotely, let's go ahead and do that. My name's Kathleen Rodden-Nord. I'm a consultant with Human Capital Enterprises. I think you all have heard my background. I'm from Oregon. I spent 33 years in public education. The last 18 of those I spent as superintendent of a mid-sized district in the Willamette Valley. So I've been doing this work with Hank for a little more than 6 years now. Time flies. And just so delighted that you all chose us. And I know we're gonna do our very best to make you really happy with that decision.
And thank you, board, as well. Hank here is here. Just an honor to be with you, to have the opportunity to serve both your communities, your joint school district. And I echo Kathleen's comments. We're excited to get started. Big shoes to fill, and we're going to do our utmost to bring you a great pool of candidates, engage your community, and help you hire somebody extraordinary.
Great. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and just give you a little download on where things are right now. And typically at this point in the process, the planning meeting, we wouldn't have a lot to report, but I'm absolutely thrilled to say we are well into our engagement work. So in fact, we have had the opportunity to meet with I want to say 6 different focus groups today, as well as each of the 4 trustees that are present here. So we are learning a lot about the district and what makes Belmont-Redwood Shores special, the reason why people choose to come here to have their children educated. We're also learning about things that it'll be important for the next superintendent to know and be prepared to address. We are hearing from a range of stakeholders about what it is they think the board should look for in the next superintendent. And so the work that's underway right now is we are moving simultaneously through the planning and through the engagement work. And I will say that is happening at record speed, with no short changing of the value of the work that's happening. And a lot of the reason why we've been able to get this going so quickly is thanks to the efforts of Superintendent Dugara and your wonderful board secretary, executive assistant, Kirsten. Oh my goodness. I have never had a focus group scheduled so quickly and with such great organization. So very, very appreciative of that. So We will talk more a little bit later in the agenda about which focus groups we've already met with. And then we'll also get a sense for whether or not the board has an interest in us broadening the conversations to any other groups that we haven't had the chance to plan to speak to. So, okay, you'll see that next up, number 3 on the agenda is with respect to staff support. And one of the things we very much commit to is minimizing the burden and the asks that we place on your staff. People are super busy. They've got important work that they need to be doing. And so we will do our very best to make sure that what we ask is reasonable and that we allow for enough time for people to plan for that. Most of what we need is with respect to what's happening right now. So we need support with organizing the focus groups and certainly have been happy with how that's been going. We also are looking for support in terms of technology and the website. We'll talk about that in just a minute. And so I think the support, the time when we'll need more support again, Kirsten, just a heads up, and you could probably see it from the timelines, is when we get closer to the end of the process, we'll need a lot of support. We'll need some support in terms of planning for logistics of those final interviews and things like that. So what would you say? Anything else that we want to? I am going to talk about that next. Yeah. So, thank you, Luann. So with respect to communication, we wanted to talk a little bit about how we like to work. We want to be really clear and on the same page about how we communicate with one another, how we ask you to communicate about the search or not communicate about the specifics of the search to others. So I'll start by saying that Kirsten is the designated point person, that you are welcome to reach out to us directly if you have questions or something you want to learn more about. And you can also let Kirsten know that you have a question for us, and then she'll alert us and we'll reach out to you. Okay. So she is going to be helping with some of the flow of information that comes from us to you. And so that means she'll be a party to some of the emails that we send out, the things that aren't confidential in nature or pertaining to particular aspects of the search. Communication and website, we have made a connection with Jerome and with Jacqueline, so your technology director and your communications specialist or consultant. And so we have asked for the tech folks to set up a link on the website. We call it a superintendent search landing page. So something on the front page of your website where people can go to see the information that we're sharing tonight. And then as the search unfolds, that'll be a place where people can see up-to-date information. There also will ultimately be a link to our Human Capital Enterprises website, so people can go directly there to access the application portal, to get information on how to contact us, and so on. Communication is obviously very important, and so we will be doing a lot of making sure that your staff and your families feel well informed. We're going to be looking towards that communication specialist to help make sure that the messaging and the information is being shared broadly with constituents of your district. So we have provided Jacqueline with a sample of some communications that were done in a relatively recent search we did, Ashland, Oregon. And so that's a place where she can go and get a sense for kind of the cadence of when things could be shared. And also there was kind of I think you were talking about this earlier, cool in the sense that board members, trustees were a part of those communications. So different board members in this case took responsibility for messages. Videos. if you are curious, happy to send you that link and you can kind of explore and see if that's something that you feel would be worthwhile in your community. Otherwise, we have plenty of samples for written communications that Jacqueline can use to blast out information.
So I will also say one of the things, okay, so focus groups. Yeah, we're going to talk more about focus groups just in a few minutes. I do want to say that in addition to the focus groups that have been happening today and again tomorrow, we have 2 more scheduled, not scheduled yet. We have 2 more identified for a total of 11. And one of those will be a focus group for staff, and staff will be sent a link on Friday. That's tomorrow. I'm trying to get my days straight here. They'll be sent a link so they can apply for a lottery spot in one of those focus groups. And then I'll be looking at those who apply and creating a balanced focus group so that we're not getting, just all 3rd grade teachers or all people from 1 or 2 schools. We'll do our best to distribute so we're hearing voices from across the district. There also will be tomorrow Parent Square notification that goes out with a link to the opportunity for parents to apply for a lottery that will have a focus group specific to parents. Again, we'll be looking at balancing that across the district, I guess one thing I want to say also is that we really want to make sure that we're inviting voices that might not always be heard. So if there are people who care to share that they either are a member of the BIPOC community or they have a child who's receiving special education services or is on a 504 plan, oftentimes those are voices that are really important for us to hear. So if people care to share that, we'll make note of that and we'll make sure that there's an opportunity for us to hear from them.
Kathleen, a quick
Yes,
question
yeah.
on that. Is there a note field or what does the form look like where they can kind of tell you about that kind of information if they so choose?
So it's really a bunch of check boxes. So we've pre-populated the survey so that there's a box for each school and that people can indicate that. And then there's another question that asks people if they care to share whether they are BIPOC or if they've got a child that's BIPOC or if they are a parent of a special ed student. So, so that's how we'll review the information before assembling the focus group. Yeah.
Can we ask questions or will it be in multiple languages?
I'm sorry?
Will it be in multiple languages?
Oh my gosh, I'm sorry.
Multiple languages.
Multiple languages. Thank you. English and Spanish. Yeah. And I apologize. I'm just going to let you guys know I have a hearing issue. So it's me, it's
Well,
not you.
it's both.
Okay. Okay, great. So again, we'll talk through addendum A in just a couple of minutes, where there are a variety of other groups that we sometimes have in for focus groups, and y'all can consider whether there are any other groups that you want to bring into this part of the process. So the focus groups and the surveys, the information that we obtain there is really valuable, and we use that to make sure we're understanding the findings that emerge, the things that are really important and that are being said by a lot of people, and also maybe not said very often, but are really important for us to attend to. So it's going to help inform the next superintendent criteria that the board is going to be developing a little later in our process. It also, the conversations we're having, and you know this from us speaking with you, are really crucial as we are recruiting. So we're able to call people we know, maybe we don't know them yet, but we're hearing great things about them. We'll pick up the phone and get them interested in the position by telling them the things that are going great here and by getting them excited about the opportunity to apply for the position. Okay, what would you say? Anything else? I'm going to talk a little bit later about what you can see under.
Can I just ask one
Yes.
question?
Yeah.
How many people for these two focus groups? How many people? And I assume it's like maybe 45 minutes or so. It depends on how many people, right?
40 minutes. These two, the staff by lottery and the parent by lottery will be virtual because I won't be on site by the time we get them scheduled.
Mhm.
40 minutes. We have a cap typically of 6. And we do that so that we can dig in a little bit more deeply and we're not just like hearing surface level from many people. And we have the chance to just really follow up on things that we hear that we need to learn more about.
Mhm.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Well, you probably saw this agenda and probably thought like, oh my gosh, are we going to get out of here before 10 o'clock?
Mhm.
And yes, we will. I do want to just tell you that the next item, the timeline of activities, is where we are going to spend probably most of our time this evening. And you haven't seen this yet, so I want to give you just a minute. You will have in front of you 2 different draft timelines. Timeline 1 is the expedited timeline. And then so the expedited timeline has the search concluding by early September. And timeline 2 is kind of a more, I'm not going to say leisurely pace, but a little more time at each of the stops along the way and concluding about mid-October. So to just for a moment share the pros, I suppose, of the expedited timeline is that it would allow for you to get your new superintendent seated more quickly near the beginning of the school year. And there'll be ample time to give due attention to every step in the process, even though it's more expedited. Yes. Mhm.
Just one thing, don't look at the specific dates and be
Thank
like,
you.
oh, I'm out of town that day. Like, we're not up to that point.
Yeah.
So look in general at
Yes.
the calendar overall.
Yeah.
But not too worried about specific
Yeah.
dates.
We're not going to talk dates until we have more clarity about which of the 2 approaches you'd like us to take. Okay, thank you. That was good. With respect to the second option, the second timeline, it allows for more time at each stage, but it's not necessarily, we don't necessarily need as much time as what we're building in here, particularly because the engagement work, so much of that is going to be done quickly here. I do want to point out that let's go to a timeline and let me just kind of walk you through the milestones. So one of the first things you'll see is that consultant trustee conversations, most of those have already happened. So that's fabulous. We're having the planning meeting now. So we're going to be moving out of the planning phase after this evening. We are working through the focus group meetings and that online survey will have a close pretty quickly, June 23rd, although we're not really looking at dates, but we will have the information we need to be able to then move into developing the next superintendent criteria. So that is a place where the board will want to really dig in and look at those criteria that we draft and make sure that we've captured everything, that we haven't included anything that doesn't really feel like it aligns with what you'll be looking for. I don't think that's ever really happened, that we've taken anything out. And actually, I don't know that we often have to add things either, but that'll be a place where we really need you to be thinking and just reflecting on what you're hearing and what you've shared with us about what you're looking for. After that, we will open the application portal. Hank will do a blast out to our network of more than 40,000 people to say, here's this remarkable opportunity. Let's tell you a little bit about Belmont-Redwood Shores and why you should want to come work here. And then we begin picking up the phone. We also begin getting emails from people who've received that blast, who are interested in hearing more. And I think one of the things we really value are those conversations with people. We don't just direct them back to the website and ask them to figure it out themselves. We're really interested in making sure that they understand a lot about the opportunity and that we start to learn about them. And so we're collecting information through those conversations, and it helps inform later in the process who is, we're going to be asking in for a preliminary interview with the consultants. So we do those things via Zoom. You know, we're talking with people from all over the country in some cases. And so that's a great way to do it. We will record those preliminary interviews for you. And that will be, looking at those interviews will be part of your work a little bit later in the process. We also do a telephone reference check on each of the people we do a preliminary interview with. I think we would anticipate doing prelim with 6 to 8 candidates. And so when we come to you at that point where it says board reviews applicant materials, you will have access to all of the application materials that have been submitted. You'll see a link to the video interview that we've conducted. You'll have the transcript from the reference check we did. And so you'll get a clear sense of who your applicants are. You can look at all of the applications that come in, and we'll talk more about the process pieces of each of these steps as we get there, but just kind of to get an overall sense. It is a heavy lift, I think, is what I heard Kirsten say, for the board, because you're going to have all this information that's really important for you to consider. And so we think that you should set aside between the time that you have access to the time before we come together and you're identifying who you want to interview, you should probably set aside 8 to 12 hours to go through all of that information. Okay. So going back to the two options for the timeline, timeline 1, you have basically a week. Timeline 2, the board would have more time with those materials. I think a week is fairly typical, you know, a week to 10 days is kind of, it seems to be sufficient for folks. Yeah. So stop me if at any point I leave anything out. Okay. Okay. So one of the things also, I'm just going to circle back, you probably see in parentheses under presentation and approval of BRSSD's next superintendent criteria. That would be in an open session. We would expect that perhaps it would be a special meeting as opposed to one of your regular business meetings. And then we are going to be interested in knowing whether you want us to go through that work with you virtually or whether you want us in person. So no need to decide that right now, but that's there will be some decision points around that at various steps in the process. Okay, so let's move back. You've already kind of been given a heads up that you're going to have to spend some time considering some really important information. From that, we're going to ask you to come together in closed session because this is going to be, you know, highly confidential information. And we want you to be able to discuss, you know, very fully and very openly with one another about the applications you've reviewed and to come to a decision about who it is you want to invite in for a round 1 or a first round interview, semifinalists. You most likely would end up with 5, I think at most 6 people that would come in for an interview.
I'm going to just jump in and
Yes.
clarify where you are on the.
Okay. Oh, thank you.
Right now Kathleen's talking about the presentation of slate of candidates.
Yes.
So that's after you've had your 8 or 10 hours, which is the row above, board reviews, applicant materials. Then we come together, you come together, and we call that the slate meeting or the presentation of slate of
Yeah.
candidates. So that,
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, no, that's great. And again, you know, happy to work through that with you virtually or in person, whatever you feel would be most helpful.
From there, you will have identified those, 4 or 5 or 6 people you'd like to have come in for, or you'd like to have them virtually for a first round interview. And again, those need to be in closed session. And there, is a statutory exemption for being able to do that in something other than an open session. This is going to also be an ask of your time because it will either be a long, full day that will be required to go through those interviews, or sometimes people prefer to break those up over 2 days and still be a pretty big, block of time.
Mhm.
Okay. So, we just covered the board's first round interviews. And then the next thing you'll see is optional virtual confidential community panels. And I think we talked with most of you in our individual meetings today about what that is. And after you've conducted those first round interviews, you're going to have a conversation. We're going to debrief with you, and you're going to decide who you want to invite into your finalist round. So once you've determined who those finalists are, there are times where boards want to have some different voices share what they are seeing and hearing from your finalists. And so that's the confidential community interview panel. It's 12 people. They spend a great deal of time with your finalists, and it's confidential. I just really want to emphasize that. People sign a confidentiality affidavit. We really stress that probably ad nauseum, but it's something that is important for people when they're applying for the position to know that the search is going to be one where their name won't be revealed unless and until they're the person who the board has successfully arrived at a contract with. So getting back to the panel, it's often a reflection of your community. There typically will be a couple of staff members. It might be one classified, one certificated, one administrator. And there often are a couple of parents. There may be people, maybe in this case, someone from your foundation who it's important for them to kind of get a connection with your potential finalists, sometimes elected officials. In some places, we have students also sit on the confidential community panels, and they are amazing and do a great job. In this case, with y'all being a K-8 district, 7th and 8th graders, 8th graders in particular, have done that with us before. On occasion, there'll be elected officials. There might be business leaders. There could be people from nonprofits that you partner with. There could be representatives from various affinity groups. So the ability to create a panel that's a reflection of who you feel like you need to hear from, it's flexible. And it's also one of those things that while some of the positions are designated, like, that you've only got, one chief of police or one executive director of your foundation, and they're going to have a seat at the table. Beyond that, it's an opportunity for you to say to your community, we're going to be inviting in superintendent finalists. And if you have an interest in engaging in this work, there's another lottery kind of a thing that happens. So that again is a full day commitment on the part of those folks that are serving on a panel. We do those virtually because it's quite possible that you'll have people maybe who aren't really close here, and so don't want to ask them to incur the travel time and the expense of participating in person on that. So,
May I interrupt for a second?
Yes, please.
No, but please finish your thought.
no, please.
Just want to get a better sense of
Uh-huh.
what would this community panel. So
Mm.
I understand it's a kind of a representation of community. The finalist interviewers, 4 to 6 or whoever how many finalists at this stage?
2, 3, or 4.
2, 3, or
Probably
4.
2 or 3.
Okay.
It would
They
be
Sometimes one.
Sometimes one.
Yeah, sometimes boards just know that's the person they want to really,
So they've come in, they haven't had their, I see they haven't had their final interview with us.
correct.
So the purpose is not to kind of tell the community to kind of quiz them. What, can you go over, like, can you
Yes.
go over what an example panel looks like?
Yeah.
And then also a follow-up would be, where have you seen this done? Under
Mhm.
what things has it been successful? What things has it honestly been an absolute flop?
Mm.
It'd be interesting to know.
Yeah, never a flop.
Okay, good.
And I think any board member who has seen the feedback that comes out of the community panel would say it's very value added. So in our proposal, one of the documents that Hank attached, I think it was the third one, was actual feedback from a community panel that a board got on their finalists. And so, there might be times when search firms like do this big town hall or open house, or people can, and then the board gets feedback based on just very limited opportunity for their constituents to interact. And it's a place where sometimes implicit bias can come in to the feedback that a board gets. And the process we use does not provide for that, because we are very structured. We're very specific about what kind of feedback our panelists are clear that they're not going to be giving you a rank ordering. They're not going to tell you who they think you should hire. They're strictly going to be saying, here are the things, here are the places where we heard or we saw this person really align with what we know the board is looking for. Here are the places where you, as a board, who then will see the finalists after reviewing this feedback, you might want to probe on this, or you might want to get more information about that, because we still don't know. So it helps shape your interview with your finalists as well, because you just know what questions still need to be asked. Yeah. Jackie,
What,
trustee.
why is this like optional on our list?
Because it wasn't part of our base contract. And in some instances, there have been boards who say, we feel like we have a really good understanding of what our community wants, and we don't, and we know that they trust us to just make the decision, and so they don't have a panel. And in other places, they say, we've gotten feedback from our constituents that they don't feel like they've had a voice in some things, and it's going to be important for us to demonstrate that they do. And so, it doesn't have to be a panel. It could be two, or whatever you decide would be of most value. There is an additional cost. It's a big body of work. There's a big training component. We're organizing the scheduling. We're writing the interview questions. We're facilitating the debrief and the feedback that comes back to you. So people have the opportunity to debrief as a group, and that's the kind of feedback you saw attached to the proposal. And they'll also be given a survey that they can do individually. So they can, they can share things maybe they didn't have a chance to share with the whole group, but you'll see that from them as well.
So
I was just going to add one piece, if I may, and I think I might have said this in the pitch too. There seems to be maybe a little bit of a cultural, by culture, I mean state-specific sort of sense around engaging community in the finalist stage of the process. So when we do searches in the Pacific Northwest, almost always is there a community panel. And sometimes boards are like, 12 people aren't enough. We need 3 community panels. In our California searches, which we haven't done as many California searches, but in our California searches so far, there has not been the request for a community panel. And I think that's because in California, other than in some of the large districts, there is typically more of a culture around it's a board decision, the board's involved, and there's kind of a community understanding of that. So that might be also a little bit to sort of think about.
Yeah, thank you.
But we are believers in it. We think when boards have had this kind of information, it's been really helpful. And we haven't had, like, as Kathleen said, no flops. We've never had a bad experience with a community panel.
can I ask about numbers, or is that, what's the cost?
$2,200 per panel.
Hi, sorry.
And the panel is 12.
Yes, yeah. Other
That could be
questions?
more while I'm unmuted.
while
Keep
you're
going?
muted.
Yeah, sure.
Oh,
You were talking about confidentiality.
Yes.
And I said, look, I'm just going to scroll back a little bit. I see that you do reference calls before you even present people to us. Is that like practice for your field or practice for your company?
It's our practice that
Yeah.
we want you to have information, not just from us, but we want to bring you information from someone who's worked closely with this person.
Yeah.
At this point, it is, the applicant has identified someone that we can call at that stage in the
Mm.
process. Later, we'll talk about, you know, deeper reference
There we go.
checking
Okay.
that happens with your finalists, and that's different. People
Mhm.
don't choose or self-identify who you all are going to be talking with or who we're going to be talking with on your behalf. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, you bet. Other questions?
So let me just say that in the addendum for the focus group, we did add on item number K. Just so you know, like when they're talking about elected officials and community leaders,
Yeah.
we are adding them, we've added them on as a focus group.
Yeah.
So just to let you know, because I know that some of the mentions of the panel constituents could be these members, but they're gonna have an opportunity. Whether we choose that panel or not, they're gonna have an opportunity as part of the focus group. Yeah, $90. $90 for each extra focus group after 10. So I took it.
Okay. No, no, not at all. So we do, as I said, those panels virtually, they happen, you know, 3 or sometimes 4 days before you actually meet the finalists. And that's to afford people the opportunity, if they have to travel far, that they've got time to sit and do the virtual interview, and then they are able to be here in person with you all for their final interview. Let's see. So not a decision you have to make right now, and it's also not a decision that every trustee has to be a part of this, but we have found the boards that we work with, by and large, find great value in doing the deeper reference check calls themselves. And then as part of our process where we're leading you through discussing your finalists, you report out to your colleagues. We're posting those transcripts of the calls that you've made. And then we're also asking you, when we're debriefing, what were some things you heard in that reference call that you think it's important for your colleagues to understand or to hear. You know, there's great value in it, and sometimes people just don't have that kind of time. We make it as easy as possible as we can for trustees by making sure that you've got the contact information in advance, asking the finalists to make sure that they've been in touch with people so that they're expecting a call or a text from you. And we found that it goes really smoothly, and yeah. So again, not something you have to decide today, but do want to give you a heads up that that's an opportunity for you to really roll up your sleeves and kind of get involved at that level. Yeah. So now we're at your final interviews, and very much presuming I think most people would agree that you have the person there in front of you. It just kind of gives the opportunity for a different kind of interaction. Depending upon the number of finalists that you have, we ask that you set aside 2 full days, where if you have 4 finalists, we would do 2 on one day, 2 on the next, and that second day would be a longer day because you'd be doing your overall deliberations, or perhaps we'd have to schedule deliberations for yet another time after those 2 days. Again, long days, but it goes by really fast, and at least for us. And I think for, probably not for finalists sometimes, but definitely for the board and the trustees. Yeah. So then we want you to be aware that there's some downtime between those final interviews and when you actually get to the point where you're
announcing your new superintendent after you've approved their contract. And what's happening in the interim is you'll have designated probably 2 trustees that will take the lead on negotiating the contract on behalf of the board. And we also strongly recommend that you have us on your behalf arrange for a comprehensive background check on each of your finalists, because you don't want something, we've never had like a deal breaking something emerge through that comprehensive background check. I should back up and say, one of the things we ask in the preliminary interview is not on camera, but we ask people to let us know if there's anything in their past that we should be aware of that could potentially come up. And so we want to know about that now. It's not necessarily going to take them out of the running, but we don't want to find out as a surprise later in the process. Background checks are taking, I don't know, a week to 2 weeks to get back. So that's why you see that pause there too. And then you'll have what we hope is just a single item special board meeting that can be very celebratory. That's going to be the first time that your community, your staff, hears the name of the person you've hired. And that's the only name that they'll hear. They won't know who else was involved as applicants up until that point. And so that's the timeline where I mean, August 31st, we're kind of squeaking in there on timeline 1. I know you start school just before that, but that feels like probably to give everything the time it needs. That's as early as we can get there. So if you want to take a moment and look at timeline 2 as well, and just kind of reflect on the places where we've extended the time. We've extended the time for engagement, the focus groups. We would have the survey open for longer. The fact that we've got to do this, that we are doing this engagement work in the summer, I don't know that having more time is going to be as important as, getting those voices heard now. It would also allow for a slightly longer recruitment window. Having said that, on timeline 1, the recruitment window lines up pretty nicely with a time when a lot of superintendents are more available to interview, are more available to get invested in the process, because that's often a time when they take a little time off. Now, with respect to timeline 2, it is moving that recruiting period into August. So that's getting closer to, if you have someone who's got an employment contract somewhere else, they're engaged in working for their current employer. And yeah, let's see, you would have a bit more time to review those application materials. Everything else in terms of the need for the blocks of time are the same, the full day or the 2 full days for the first round, and then the 2 long full days for the finals. Yeah.
Can I ask a question real
Yeah.
quick? Sorry, and apologies if this was said and I just missed it, but for the online survey, is that just how they apply for the lottery, or is that a separate
Great question.
survey?
So that's the reason why we're sending them out on 2 separate days. So what goes out tomorrow is a link to a lottery application so they can participate in a focus group. On Monday, a link to the survey will go out to everybody. Everyone is welcome, even if they participated in a focus group, to complete the survey. I would anticipate, we should probably get 100, maybe 200, maybe more responses. And we assure people that they're sharing their same thoughts as what we ask focus groups to share with us. So the questions that you heard that we ask the focus groups, those are the questions that appear on the survey.
That's great. Is there language along with the survey that lets the community know that it's similarly?
Yes,
Okay,
yeah. In
okay.
fact, I think the communication that the superintendent sent out last week to tell people that there'd be opportunities for engagement, I believe it's specified in there that it's the same questions that are asked of the focus groups. Yeah. You bet.
Does that data go to, so
They
that's
do.
going to be part of the process already, right? The
Yes.
online survey?
Yes.
And is that a window that's left open for a while?
It is, generally we find that people who are going to do it are going to do it
Yeah,
pretty quickly.
yeah.
And if it looks like we aren't getting the level of response that we had hoped for, we'll ask that a reminder go out and say, the survey window's closing in 2 days. We really want to hear from you.
Mhm.
I do want to speak to the information that we get from the surveys. We hold that. We need to be able to tell people that they're invited to share their thoughts without concern for someone knowing, who said what and so on. So similar to what we say in our focus groups, we take that information and we synthesize it. And we use that to say, what are those key findings? We also, it's not just about how many times somebody said what that rises to the top. It's also if we see something in those responses that might be a low frequency response, but it's coming from a corner of your district or your community that doesn't often get a voice. And so we want to make sure that we elevate that and make sure that you get that information in a way that's not personally identifiable, but that you have a heads up like, okay, here's what some people are saying, is something that they'd love to have the next superintendent attend to or what have you. Okay.
That sounded like the online survey it's the same questions to the focus group that's in front of you, but perhaps it's anonymous, but there's demographic questions as well. Like, do you know who you're hearing from?
Yeah, so the only thing we know, is kind of what the person's connection to the district is. Are they a staff member?
Mhm.
Are they a parent? Are they a community member? Then if they're a parent, which school does their child go to? They can select multiple options if they're in multiple schools.
Yeah.
Same thing for staff. We ask, just we want to see if there are any trends.
So the lottery to be in a focus.
Oh my gosh. So the survey, the survey itself, we don't ask demographic information. Yes, please.
So the survey itself, we don't ask demographic, that's correct, but we do ask role within the district. So we can look at classified, we can look at students, we can look at administrators. And we do know whether they responded to the Spanish language survey or the English language survey. So we do have that. And then Kathleen was talking about, do you want to talk about the other or not?
Yeah, the focus group lottery form. We do have more information there. Yeah,
That's clear.
yeah.
Thank you.
And when would is that, so tomorrow or whenever, or hopefully tomorrow, the links go out inviting them for the focus group?
Yes.
When is there like, does it depend on us to get that up on the website, the link to the online survey?
So that will go out on Monday.
Okay.
We've got the links ready. We've already alerted district staff and that needs to get pushed out via Parent Square on the website, staff emails. We talked to association leaders today to say, if you have personal emails for your members and you're concerned that people aren't necessarily going to check their district email, please, forward this so that we get the maximum number of responses.
And what number, to get it robust, right, be kind of statistically relevant, what number tends to yield robust data? What, if you were to put for our district size versus like, okay, we really feel like we need to send a reminder out, because what are the numbers that you would feel very happy about that this was a successful online survey?
I'd say for a district your size, I mean, I would be thrilled if we got 200 responses.
Right.
I'd be okay if we got something more in the neighborhood of 100. I feel like that's representative. Now, you're going to be hearing from people who are motivated to share their thoughts.
Mhm.
So, and it's really hard to get people to respond if they're just disengaged.
but we hope that we're hearing from a representative sample.
Mhm. Um, I'm not, is it should I comment on the timeline or should I
Yeah,
pose to my trustees around another focus group consideration? What would you
yeah.
stay with the timeline?
Let's do the
Yeah.
timeline first.
And then we do the addendum.
Yes,
Okay.
let's do that. So however you'd like to facilitate that.
Yeah, so I mean, I think, thank you very much for presenting us with both. Um, if it seems like the work on your part on draft one, I think, like you mentioned, the points are just a compression of our time, and staff time. But as we say, they've been amazing to, and sensitive to the fact that we're trying to do an expedited search. And so really, we've kind of condensed it. And I think even when we were talking, trustee Bruno had mentioned, do we need even this time to even start the ball rolling? So I think if my fellow trustees feel like from our end, the days that we've been assigned are doable and we just kind of like got to get it done. My only question is the recruitment window and determining, so it looks like draft one is about 3.5 weeks, maybe 3 and 4 days. And then the recruitment window on draft 2 is 4 weeks. And so I'm wondering, but maybe extra time doesn't, like you mentioned, doesn't really do us any good. It's a kind of like you extend, but you're not really extending for value. So I guess, when would we know, or what would you need to see by when for you to say, you know what, this recruitment window is, we're getting quality candidates and we feel like we have a good sample of talent to showcase, to show the trustees versus it's a little slow, the period, and
Yeah.
I think we really need to make a recommendation to extend the window.
Yeah, so one of the things that we will do is whichever timeline you choose, we're going to stick with that because we need to be able to give applicants the certainty that
Mhm.
when it closes, when they should be setting aside time for a potential preliminary interview, that they know that's not going to change. So we really do hold hard and fast to that. What I will say is that a 3.5 week window for recruiting, it's on us. I mean, it just means that we're going to be making more calls in a shorter period of time, but it's more than adequate. And as I said, the way it lines up here, that recruitment window is a period of time where I think we should catch people at a good time to have time to apply, have time to do research and yeah. Anything you want to add to that?
I'll just say that oftentimes candidates, particularly the most serious candidates, will apply toward the end of the recruitment period. They're doing all their homework, they're watching board meetings, they're triple checking so even if we're 2 weeks into a 3-week recruitment and we only have, whatever, 7 or 8 applicants, that's not necessarily worrisome because we might very well have been on the phone with lots of people who we know are applying. So, anyway, but just to echo, we would want you to choose the timeline and work that timeline, and we are confident that either timeline you pick, you're gonna have talent.
Yeah.
I really appreciate the insight into the dates for the longer timeline because I definitely was not even thinking about like, oh, school's going to start and then maybe people aren't as available. So I think draft one for me makes sense so that we give people the time they need to, focus on this and not have to be worried about starting a school year and then also doing this
Great
at the
point.
same time.
That's a great point. I like timeline one. I think we, have to, wherever we are in the country, we just come together and make sure that things get done.
Oh, you've got two now.
I was actually leaning toward timeline 2, and for a few reasons. One is, I think it's very expedited and it's amazing. And thank you also for giving us the two, very detailed options. I was leaning toward timeline two, including for, even though, you guys have done a lot of the focus groups already, and, it seems like maybe the board is interested in doing the community panel. I still just really feel, and I appreciate the plans for the survey as well. I feel like a lot of the community this is not on their radar. And although they may appreciate if we're able to find a superintendent very quickly, I am concerned about us being so far ahead in the process before the school year starts again. I do recognize that that is better for the candidates. But also I think too, just for, and I circled some certain things, like I do like the survey being open for a longer period of time, but I understand that that may not actually get more results. I think the recruitment window being open for a similar amount of time, but just shifted a little bit. I like it for the second timeline. And then also too, I think for myself personally, and I know we could, not the specific days, but I was just looking at my calendar in general. I am a parent in the district. School starts August 12th. So we're looking at different closed sessions of full days. And then the following week as well, we tend to have regular board meetings and retreats at that time as well, which we could also try to reschedule or try to combine. But I'm leaning towards I prefer the slightly longer timeline.
Could I ask a question just like for your opinion? Do you know, like I understand what you're saying about the community not tracking this,
Yeah.
and I hear that loud and clear. I'm wondering like what can we do though? You know what I mean? Like do you think giving the community just more time equals then they'll hear about it and want to participate? Or you know what I mean? Like if we go down the longer timeline and then I guess we wouldn't know either way, like if we're getting more or not. But do you have a sense, April or Trustee Northrup, of like anything that we or the, people putting out the communications could do to help with the community piece?
Yeah, I guess great question. Thank you. I mean, I think even just the, and of course, we know that word of mouth, people in the area have heard about it already. But just that recruitment window extending into August 16th, right? With the first day of school being August 12th, right? Then parents are talking maybe. They could be like, oh, they're still looking for a superintendent. Oh, and then it's just broadening our reach for who we're bringing into the conversation. That's one of the things, but I would like to hear from Trustee Bruno too. On preference for timeline.
Did you feel like you answered? Did you need your answer?
I think so. Yeah. Thank you, Trustee Northrup.
Before I answer, I have a few additional questions.
Sure.
Do both timelines cost the same? I actually
Yeah,
not that into money. I'm
great
just curious.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
They-
No difference
Gotcha.
on our part. and it's-
And then are they, I heard you clearly say that like whatever one we pick, you would do your best to hold to. But in some of the same questions I think I'm hearing and I would have is if either we recognize or perhaps you recognized low uptake from either candidates or community, are they, I hear you saying you adhere to it, but also are they flexible? In a moment you might say, hey, I want a few more candidates. Would that happen? Or the one we're picking is the one that we're You know what I'm asking?
Could the,
Yeah, please.
could the timeline change? Oh, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, like say we do the community panel and you're like, wow, like not many people respond to that. Let's try that again. But that would extend the timeline. Or
Yeah,
just
so
like
I would say we have a high value in being super clear, transparent with our candidates of here's what to expect in the process.
Fair.
And so
I like that.
that's
Yeah.
another way of saying probably not so flexible once the timeline has been
Yeah.
established. Now, in the event, and this won't happen, in the event that you get to a point in the process and you're like, we don't feel good about these candidates, well, then yes, we're like, all right, well, let's restart, let's
sure.
reboot, we will absolutely be with you
sure.
till you finish this process, no matter how long it takes, but that won't happen.
Yeah.
But we do want to commit to times. If I can just say a little bit more, we hear from other searches and candidates who are in other searches that it's a constantly moving target to the point that it's exhausting. And sometimes people walk away from the process. They're like, I don't want to play by these rules. Like, I'm a busy person.
Yeah.
And you told me the interview was on August 5th. Now you're telling me it's August 12th. And you told me I was supposed to prepare this, but now you're telling me never mind. Like, we hear that and we are not that firm.
For sure. Thank you for saying
Yeah.
that. And I think that's part of my, I'm torn between the two because I've lived that. When I think about just, I want great candidates. I want options. And I do think that recruitment window is the realest thing I've heard, in the sense that I think after July 26th, you lose the possibility to have people's attention who are starting up a school year. That's from lived experience, and you guys are being gracious about it and you're not moving your head about it. But I think they're I stopped checking my email a little bit, to be honest. And yeah, so I think I understand. I think we all agree that more people's opportunities to weigh in is hugely important, and maybe has been proven more so in the last year. I think we can all agree with that. And we all said it, I'm sure, that I would love to feel like our community had as many opportunities to see the emails, voice their input, respond to the survey. Like I heard you say, like sending reminders, like part of me is thinking right there, being like, matter of fact, send it and then I'll say it on Monday and go ahead and send a reminder on Wednesday, right? Like I really do think, I think I would clearly state actually that more time has never worked.
Yeah.
I think more reminders has. Or constantly is the window closes and then attention rises. That's the only things I've seen. So I don't think 2 more weeks has ever helped. And that maybe that's any community. But I do think the pain, like, did you see it? Did you see it? Did you see it? Or the thing of like, this is your last chance. Yeah, I do. That recruitment window is big. I was curious about, or maybe you answered it already, but for timeline 2, like that recruitment window is the only space that you've made it longer. But like I see it ends 6 weeks later.
Yeah.
I feel like I have my eyes on 3 weeks that you added, and then I don't see where the others are. Like you moved the recruitment window back and made it 4 days longer, and you gave us an extra week to review applicants. And then I think I don't really see where the other 3 weeks are.
Yeah, it's just basically more time at each
Yeah.
stage and more time in between, like
Gotcha.
the interviews. Yeah. And so to the point of, if you guys have a ton of meetings scheduled within that same window of time, it might be helpful for you to not have so many of our search activities happening in a more compressed time.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
If I can just add one piece on that. So one place where you will see it that maybe we haven't surfaced is that if you look at timeline 1, you do see a very condensed semifinalist to finalist piece of work. You'll notice you have 4 days potentially only to do reference calls.
Yeah.
So you will feel an intensity there. If you do go with timeline 1, I'm secretly hoping that you'll choose like August 13th for the first round and August 21st for the second, just to build in a little bit more time for that in between. So you will feel it there a little bit. We're still totally confident that we can do that, but you from a board perspective will feel a lot of intensity in that 8 or 10 day period.
That's why I as I was reading it and thinking between the two and listening to Trustee Northrup, is I think, like I said, like I agree with the recruitment window timing to get ideally the most attention, who knows the best candidates, and then I see space there to stretch it. But again, I'm not asking to flex, but I was like September 10th. Again, I'm not saying change a thing, but like I see where that does look intense as a
Yeah. So
personally and professionally. But again, it's
Yeah.
not about me. But and I think my will is high I do want input, and I really, really like the idea of having somebody in place for their sake, while also, again, agreeing, wondering like, would they be on board? But the fact is also, like, in the focus groups, no matter how many people are paying attention, we're not actually going to have bigger focus groups. It'll still be a limited number of people no matter what. So again, I like my attention then goes to that online survey to be like, please, please, please give her input, and then follow along. But no matter how many people are paying attention, it's still only going to be 6 to 10 people per focus group time, the 4 focus groups, even if 400 or 800 are paying attention.
So
Done.
go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you for all your points. And, just another thing to add in, with the timeline number 1, as you mentioned, the first round interviews and the final interviews are in a short time period. They are also generally, for people who are in this area, going to be the first 2 weeks of school as well. So, again, presuming that we're mostly looking for people who are currently working in education, that's another thing that's making me think the timeline too, because again, if you're in a leadership position in another district and you're not ready to tell your district that you're looking yet, I just wonder how they're going to be, how it's going to work for them for, trying to be doing first round interviews and then final interviews in the first 2 or 3 weeks of school. Whereas with the second timeline, sorry, I lost where it is, but right, it's stretched out. You can be more like, oh yeah, I need this day, and then I need a day in 2 weeks too, and I need personal days.
Can I make a comment before?
Is it about?
It is.
I just don't want to move off of the topic.
It's not about me doing anything, but okay. Wasn't going to move off the topic. Okay. So I appreciate the community aspect. Some of these additional time for milestones is not around community engagement. And I would say that we got anecdotally a very interesting email that said, basically from one parent member that said, thanks for letting us know all this stuff. But honestly, it's like, what do parents have to add? What do the community members have to add? I think the decision should be left up to educational leaders and everything like that. And while I was kind of joking, his was like, we trust you. The essence was not that we can't, not that a parent or community member can't contribute. Of course they are, and we want them to. I think reading between the lines, it was at some point, gather the input, and I hope it's meaningful to you. But at the end of the day, as you were saying, the majority is putting the trust in the board to make a decision and trusting us to involve the appropriate people to give us input into this process, of which is the community. Please let us know if you do not feel we have enough community opportunity, but I think we are doing, we are coming out of some of the latest events with sensitivity, and I don't want to not discount that because that's very relevant. But I think for this particular search, we have done a good job to date of communicating. And I do agree with Trustee Bruno that I feel like the online survey is an amazing opportunity for more people who did not get selected. I mean, I tried to get into the World Cup tickets and I got denied on every random draw. And I've entered, I had a Visa card, all the things, and nothing. So I would have loved to have a little survey. I'm going to give them a piece of my mind. But the point is, the survey opens it up to more of an opportunity than you would if you're not randomly selected to be part of the focus group. And I think the reminders are key. I know when I get a thing, even if it's important, until I get that reminder, I'm probably putting it aside and with well intentions. So I think there's opportunity there. I think the difference though between October and August is very large. If it had been like mid-September, and you had elongated a few things, that would make sense. And again, we're seeing just two versions. But I think it's pretty dramatic. I would just, so I feel that we can do a very good job. And I think for me, what I've heard from seeing people out and about anecdotally, they have, the community members have said, are we going to have a superintendent in time for the beginning of the school year? And my response is, we will not rush the process. We are making sure that we're doing a thorough and review. But I think the community is basically like, do your thing. Of course, we understand you're going to do a thorough review, but be ideal to get to know our superintendent at the beginning or close to the school year without, jumping into things. There was one final point I just wanted to raise to the board, is that the interim superintendent, um, that is still to be negotiated, but basically, looking at, 49.5 days. So, again, that should not be a driving factor in our decision-making, but to your point, I think you bring a perspective about the window and when candidates might want to interview and when they're going to be maybe solely focused on a search. And I think, so again, that's just something for us to think about as we deliberate and come to a vote.
Can I go first? Okay, so yeah, so now that we've heard, I think it's like both of them have kind of that piece of like, okay, so in one, it's like you're gonna miss out on people who don't, the recruitment window is gonna be when they're starting school. But then if we go with the shorter one, then the interview is when they're gonna be starting school. So I'm wondering, and David, you kind of alluded, is there room to adjust one of these now to either lengthen August 31st to maybe September 20 something, or shorten October 19 to maybe like September 20 something?
So sort of
as an
a
option.
blend of the two. Yeah. Tell me where you would hope to have that time added to timeline one.
Yeah, so I think that having a little separation between first round and second round at the beginning of school
Mhm.
would be beneficial there.
For who?
Yeah,
For who? For who?
I mean, I think for a lot of people, I think for us probably, but also I think for candidates as well. Like as April mentioned, if you have to, you're not ready to say that like, hey, I'm putting my hat in the ring somewhere else, but now you have to request like several days in pretty close succession off right at the beginning of the school year, could be raising red flags, or, I don't know. It just seems like if we could have a little separation there, I think would be helpful.
Yeah, I mean, most definitely. But I do want to say the people that you're talking about who are going to have to be asking for time off, as long as they know when that is, whether it's end of August or middle of September or beginning of October, they're going to want this job and they're going to make that happen. They're going to know what the date is. They're going to plan towards that. And at that point, when someone becomes a finalist, they need to be letting, their current board know. They need to be letting, if they're not in a superintendent seat, they need to be letting their direct supervisor know. So that's going to happen at some point, and whether that happens, August 10th versus September 15th, I don't know that more time is really going to change that. In fact, it may present challenges on their end to get a replacement after things have already started going. But we can most definitely morph this, so it's kind of a blend of the two, if that's something that you feel strongly about. Yeah.
Sorry, I was waiting. I wasn't.
No, that's okay. I tend to
Um,
trail on and
I
on.
want to answer the same question that you just asked, and I feel like I'm pitching it to you, but I think it also may be a response to some dates you were specifically saying. But when we first went through this, you mentioned the board review timeline and how that whatever, how many hours we need to give to it, how
Mhm.
that might benefit. So again, I'm ignoring the exact dates, kind
Sure.
of, but if I added 5 days right there, hypothetically, in
Mhm.
that August 1st to 9th, and I push that back 5 more days, that now makes, if everything stayed the same, first round interviews are now the second week of school. So people have had time to talk, and people who are, again, obviously fully acknowledging that they might be leaving where they're working, but their focus for that at least 1 week is popping confetti or doing whatever they do for that first week of school. And then if everything stayed intact, we're now starting at whatever that date is, that Monday, that's now the second week. All the same things. And then my other, not that they even individual days. I agree with you when you're like, even with the number of weeks, if they know, I think at this point in this proposal, like they know they've committed to it, they're hoping for it. So they're still fully committed to like rah, but they're also like, I'd be fully okay if I didn't see you again. Right. We acknowledge that. It sounded like we haven't voted on it or whatever, but it seemed like we were interested in the community panel.
Mhm.
And when I look at that timeline, like those dates literally overlap right now when I look at it. And so maybe there's space there for
Mm.
one or two more if I cared about the exact days. But now I'm looking at September 6th or 8th or something. But it frees up that first week as a thing if we're thinking about that,
Mm.
even for both candidate and parent and community. There's a time that we can say to them that, like, we knew you're paying attention now because you arrived to school and you listened to the first day. I don't know that. Yeah, I feel like I'm overpitching it, but that, like, it scratches some itches for me to like, and again, and acknowledge what you said of when I think of my 8 to 10 hours, I've been pretty transparent. In general, my attention is here and I'm committed, but 8 to 10 hours at that time for me as well feels a little tough.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, and I think also just keeping in mind that like we have a regular board meeting as well, that like it, and I know you said not to look at the actual dates, but
We're gonna have to do it at some point.
At the actual dates, but it's like
Yes.
you need to be in the final interviews from 8:30 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. Then we're gonna start our board meeting after that.
No, that wouldn't be a date that we, yeah.
Oh, both of you, like, your I mean, direct question, right? Like if I hear you saying like the 1 or 2, even 3 weeks when they're kind of on this path doesn't matter that much. But when you hear like that space there, like that cause and the experience you have in running a timeline, looking at it like this, like if we're not saying October 19th, but we are saying September 6th through 15th, does that cause you any concern?
Not at all.
Yeah.
I mean, that's certainly a possibility to kind of come to a place that's between timeline 1 and timeline 2. I quite honestly will have to look at my calendar because there are obviously a few things that I have that would prohibit me from being here, but there aren't many. So I guess I'm wondering how, it doesn't feel like that's something we're going to be able to nail down right now. You all have another board meeting next week.
Mhm.
Would it be possible for me to spend some time trying to work up a new calendar that's somewhere between the two so that you can act to approve it at your next board meeting? I mean, we need to do this soon, but we also don't want to rush it and yeah.
But can I get, so yes, I think we could also maybe, is this the type of thing that we can discuss and share calendars like offline and kind of synthesize it offline or in between in the interest of the schedule? Yeah, that's what I'm
Yeah.
wondering.
It's not formally for, anything's not formally up for action tonight, it's just conversation, so I think we're direction at this point. I think there's room for additional and ways that we can share information and have you chime in with each other or with president to interface with.
I guess I'm just wondering if we all come back together at our regular board meeting, I just don't want another week to go by. If what we're saying is, if what I'm hearing is, we like draft 1, but we might need to add some days here and there to bring it into a little bit into September, but we're basically love the blueprint of draft one. I think, is that kind of where we are?
I'll even more clearly say, and again, I wasn't trying to pick on dates specifically, but I think maybe even we prefer draft one specifically as it goes through July 1st. Right. So if the idea was like, what could you begin? The answer would be all of that. And then sitting down with your calendar and thinking about if there's space to add room with the board reviews or something like that. Right. But like, I think between the two, when I think about something that preliminary interviews being ending at July 31st or ending at August 23rd, I believe we're clearly on draft one.
Right, so you're saying that where would you like, trustee Bruno, I mean, we can go through it now, we can just take a quick second, because it's worthwhile, we have that. Where would you like to see the extra days? Is there any task item, any action item where you would like to see extra days?
Board review of applicant materials, and
Okay,
then
and how many days do you feel like that would?
again, I'm speaking into the microphone because I'm off mute. I'm not speaking for myself. I think when I was hearing other things is what that allows, I imagine, without knowing your calendars, is it pushes the first round of interviews off of the first week of school.
Okay, so you're kind of going off of.
And gives us more time to.
Right,
to review it.
I'm trying to just.
Yeah.
clarify. So the first, it's more around, so it's around board reviews, applicant material, just more
Mhm.
time.
Mhm.
Right, like maybe +1, +2, who knows? But then really, a good driving point is not to have the first round interviews the first week of school for us.
Again, that's what I thought I heard.
Is that kind of what people, when I say people, I mean fellow trustees?
Excuse me. Yeah, I think I would be, I love the timeline number one. I think I would be fine with going with that. And just if we'd be interested in having the first round interviews, possibly not the first week of school,
So what would you suggest? Second week?
sure. And then
Okay.
having more space until the final round. More space between the board's first round interviews, closed session, and then the board's final interviews, closed session. Right now, we have that being, right, 6 days apart. I would love for that to be 12 days apart.
So if we had kept under timeline one, we could go with Hank's suggestion of August 13th and 21st, which would give, I don't know how many quote business days that is, but that is certainly 8 days, right? If I did my math, 8 days. If we somehow extended it, another opportunity that Ms. Ellinger reminded me of was that August 27th is a study session. And so that's already on the calendar and we could repurpose that maybe for this opportunity. And that's August 27th.
27? I'm sorry. Okay.
Is that correct, Ms. Ellinger? Yeah. So that could dovetail well, but again, I want to make sure that it's in our interest because as we've said, candidates will make time. They're excited. They don't want to have they will call in sick if they need. I mean, people make time when they're excited and this is they know they're in the final round.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to say like the extra time, if it helps with review by us,
Mhm.
so that we have the time to review and make sure that I'm all for that, right? We need our review time. So I'm just trying to say that if August 27th, that gives 6 days more into the mix where that could be distributed to help ease the tension. But I don't know if we need to give it for the candidates themselves. I think we do it because it maybe makes more sense for our just overall timeline.
Yeah, I think one thing that,
Yeah.
especially like, so in between first round and second round, we have to do the reference checks.
Yeah.
So giving ourselves
Okay.
a couple of extra
So that would
days
be helpful,
there would
for sure.
be
So-
incredibly helpful because that's also like.
So that August 27th looks really good to be able to,
And I think I meant what I said, and or we all want more community input, but like
Okay.
attention is perhaps the highest because of
Damn.
the first day of
So-
school. So there's a moment that they're like, hey, FYI,
Maybe when you figure.
here's the
out
work that
dates
happened
are-
this summer.
That is, then.
Like they can't say they didn't know
Okay.
because that's where their attention is the highest. They're getting notes from Parent Square, things like that.
Right.
So
I mean, honestly, to be selfish, presentation of slate of candidates, August 10th or 11th, those are the 2 days before school starts. I could, August 11th would be fine. I'd make sure I was available, but you know, I'm back east. So it's like, but I wouldn't let that delay. I mean, it's not I would certainly make sure it happened. But I think I think it seems like then we're saying there's an interest in the bottom half, but we really are excited to really get that recruitment window. It seems like we definitely want to stick with that. We don't feel like we need to make that longer. And then we just need to give ourselves a few more days for the review process and just realistic. I'm for that.
So, I'm
Yeah,
sorry. I
yeah,
didn't-
yeah, yeah.
no.
No, I'm just,
Are you sure?
yeah, I'm thinking.
So what if, and Kathleen, I'm going to jump in so Kathleen can look at her own calendar because
Yeah.
she'll be leading that part of the process. What if we take timeline one right now and we're not married to the dates, but it's sort of our guide. And what if we walk through it and just get dates on the calendar?
Yeah,
Let's try and do that. And I think you already started us just
yeah,
now,
that's what I
David.
was trying
So
to start to do.
do you want to take back over? You,
Did you have something?
I'll just note that BRSSP starts earlier than some districts.
Yeah, I was gonna actually ask that.
let's try that. And you could do those.
And I think you're probably on the earlier side in education.
I was actually going to ask that because even with out-of-state candidates, and I thank you because I did forget to ask, where are we falling in with August 12th? That's our first day of school. Where do we fall in with out-of-staters and whatever else?
To Oregon and Washington. And I don't profess to know,
Yeah,
with the
everybody's
East
schedule.
Coast or,
East Coast is about
Midwest.
September 5th usually,
yeah, typically.
after Labor Day.
Schools north of here will start after Labor Day, but I know this year because of when Labor Day is falling, people are starting the week before, but it's not August 12th. It's, it's more like, the last week in August. So can we just share?
Yeah.
What we're thinking at this point? And so what if we moved the first round interviews to the dates that we've identified for the final interviews? So first round interviews would happen the 19th, 20th, and 21st. And then the final interviews wouldn't occur until September 9th, 10th, and 11th.
So I think one wrinkle is that our regular board meeting is on August 20th.
Okay, we don't have to use all three of those days. It's choose two of the
Oh,
three.
okay.
And sometimes actually boards like to have a day or two in between their interview days, just for various reasons. So that might kind of force it to be the 19th and 21st.
Why, so with the 19th, 20, 21st, you're shifting it a week.
Mhm.
Why is there, then the final interview is being shifted so much? Is that because to give more reference check time and stuff?
To give you more time for
And
reference checking
personal.
and Labor Day is,
Right,
yeah.
okay. So then what was the proposal?
So for the final round, September 9th, 10th, 11th, some combination of 2 days there.
We do also have a board meeting on September 10th.
So maybe it would be the same model where it's, no.
Thursday. We have our meetings on a Thursday, once a month, for the most part.
Oh, no. Okay. So that would have you doing your interviews on Wednesday. Yeah,
So sorry, I
it's okay.
don't need to be obtuse. If we,
One thing I haven't thrown is, we're also happy to do it on weekends. If that works better for you guys to do it on a Saturday. And sometimes out-of-state candidates prefer that because then they just have one travel day and we.
fine with- if we do the 19th, 20th, and the 21st for first round,
Uh-huh.
and the final interviews shifts from the 19th, 20th, 21st to that following week, the week of the August 24th, is that a conflict with your personal, like.
But that
it's be-
doesn't give us a lot of time for the reference checks and stuff.
But it gives us, it gives us an extra 5 days somewhere in the,
Well,
what do you mean 3? No, so if the new dates for the first round are moving to the 19th, 20th, and 21st, right? So if we say, okay, we're on the clock on August 19th, and then we use August the following week,
well, what
Is that
about
not-
the,
yeah.
if we wanted to do the community panel, we would need a day to do that. And then we would need time for the reference. So like,
Are we interested in
21st,
the
then-
community panel?
I mean, I don't think, I think, yeah,
Okay.
I am.
Okay.
Okay, so then,
Please.
we're on the
Hey.
9th, 10th, and 11th of September. Okay. Okay, so then we're on, your guidance is the 9th, 10th, or 11th of September for those final rounds? That's what you were saying for the final? round?
Sure. I mean, we typically, yeah,
Tell me, no, tell,
did you just come to a consensus around the 9th, 10th, and 11th as final or?
I mean, I don't think we decided that it's final.
We
I think
haven't-
we just need to make sure that we're not just looking at first round and second
Yeah.
round, and we're looking at the other items in between
Right.
first.
What,
round
what
and
if
second
we start at the top, actually, if
Yeah.
I could do that and lead us through, I think that my brain works just in terms of that and going backwards is a little bit harder. Can we do that?
yeah, whatever, yeah.
Okay, so let's go all the way to the top if we can. Other than the first 2 rows that we've already done, right? And the focus group meetings and the online survey window, those don't really impact board trustee schedules. So the first date that we need to clarify that we actually are meeting is the presentation and approval of the next superintendent criteria. This would be a special meeting, right, Kathleen?
Yes.
Ideally on the 29th or the 30th. Is one of those dates a date that you could all be at?
I can't do June 30th personally, but I can
Okay.
do the 29th.
You could do the 29th,
It's a
David.
Monday, yeah.
Okay,
I will just say we do have the district advisory committee meeting on
We
the
missed that.
29th.
We're just regular people on it. It can be done without it.
Okay.
and that's usually a kind of a work session-y kind of a thing.
I mean, that's my,
No.
Oh, never mind. Disregard what I just said. Study session.
Yeah.
Did we call it a study session here?
Here, yeah.
I can do either, but I'll be virtual. I can do either, but I'll be virtual for either, if that matters.
Virtual is fine. I mean, the important thing is that everyone can participate.
I'm out of pocket for the 30th, virtual and otherwise, but I
So
can.
But the 29th
Can we,
commit. No,
I may not be able to, but I think also if we have 4 out of 5 people, I'm totally fine with that. And sorry, and along those lines, I think it would be great if we can say what we're going to, what our timeline we're adopting is. But I am cognizant of our other trustee not being part of the conversation. So if this isn't something that we have to do in public, then I would say I would be very comfortable saying we would like timeline 1, but with a little bit of spacing at the interviews. And then we also give trustee Tang a chance to weigh in on her availability as well.
so a calendar poll maybe of everyone with some dates that we identify and then you all determine, I mean, that's more logistical, right? That's not like
It's fine.
conducting business.
I mean, I'm getting a lot of
Offline.
value out of this
Dates
and,
are-
and this
Yeah.
could, what?
Okay. Okay.
This could be tentative for trustee, Tank to then chime in, but we can do this, we can do this calendar offline. Yeah, so let's do that. It's fine.
Okay, but we're gonna need to get this done like
That's-
ASAP.
I
So
mean, can we
today's
just keep,
Thursday.
is there
We could-
broad level things that we can still do as the 4 of us that would be helpful
you mean
Now.
that separate from the timeline?
now?
Yeah, we've got some other agenda items.
No,
but
I
the-
mean, I'm sorry, do you not think that we can do a few things timeline now?
Well, I do think that if we're going to pick specific dates and then we all agree and then trustee Tang is like, well, I can't do any of those, then we're back at the drawing board.
It is
So
I
definitely.
didn't know we were going for specific dates. I thought we were kind of just saying like, the justification for like 9th, 10th and 11th versus something.
We typically would expect at a planning meeting to come out with a calendar. And because whether we're one or two, we're either way, we're on an expedited schedule. But it's a fair point. We really need all 5 trustees
Okay, fair enough.
certainly to be present at the interviews. And so you raise a good point. So I think what we should do then, and also in the interest of time
Yeah, of
tonight,
course.
because we've got
Yeah.
some other agenda items
Yeah.
and you want to go home at some point,
Yeah,
is figure out, and let's maybe not talk anymore about specific dates, but figure out how are we going to get this resolved
Yeah.
in short order? Is there a superintendent, what's your opinion?
Mhm.
Perhaps there's an opportunity to hammer out a calendar of dates. And I can provide that to trustees in my Friday update.
Great.
And we get a quick yay or nay.
Full, okay.
Great.
And I'll try to identify like more than like 3 days. Maybe I can identify 4 days in a given week, so that would afford a little more flexibility for you. Okay, so I can do that.
That's-
If you'll take it and then follow up and see which dates everyone can land
and
on.
can we kind of just come to some clarity around one of the optional, so they know to build it in or
Yeah.
not build it in, the confidential community panel? Do we feel like, oh, I'm sorry, no. You're gonna hit that. I know you're gonna hit adding, I would like to make a
Focus
proposal
groups?
to add another focus group.
Let's go back to our main agenda.
Yeah.
Can I say-
Both of those are on.
Can I say one more thing about that?
Thank you.
I would say one more thing about the calendar, just because we didn't say it when we were going through the dates, and I realize you have a plan, so don't respond to me. But the week before Labor Day, if people are available, would work on the timeline you suggested. It didn't come out. So I just want you to think on that. You don't have to respond, but that like the first, second, third.
Great.
Mhm.
Okay. So let's move on and let's turn, yeah, and this is all okay, and we're gonna get there, and it's important that we get affirmation from your 5th trustee, so that's great. And I've got a lot of flexibility this summer, so, and this fall. All right, so let's turn towards the focus group, the list of focus groups, and I'll tell you which ones we've already covered. Here we go. Okay. So we have the recommended ones, you'll see, in the contract, you had 10. And so superintendent's cabinet has been, is one of the focus groups, building administrators, superintendent I'll be talking with tomorrow. Met with certificated leadership this morning, classified leadership, district office employees. Tomorrow is PTA leadership and school force. We are sending out that lottery invitation for those next 2 groups, parents by lottery and staff by lottery. The 11th group is the service organization community leaders, elected officials. That took place today. Okay, so now what the question is as you look at that list of optional, are there groups there, or perhaps they're not even on this list, that it would be critically important for us to hear from?
So when I look at this, I'm thinking Spanish-speaking parents, based on some feedback, and obviously you say we're going to do some surveys and make sure that
Mhm.
they're in languages. So I'm wondering, I think that'd be really, really helpful, but I also wonder if we get enough from the online survey and maybe the parents, but I guess this would be I would be concerned that Spanish-speaking parents who really are, that is their first and most comfortable language, probably would not be participating in a focus group. I think they would do the survey. So I'm wondering though, is this an additional good value add to, if we get enough, if you can segment that in the survey and know who kind of answered in Spanish, then maybe that would suffice. But I also, in the interest of time and also other things, but I do think that would be a really,
Mhm.
maybe a good group to really make sure that we capture. Yeah, what is it?
Can you do the focus group in Spanish?
We have capacity on our team. Yeah, virtually to do that.
That was another question.
And what we find in some districts is that that population of parents is often most comfortable having it facilitated by someone that they already know. So I don't know if you have a liaison, family liaison for your Spanish-speaking parents or anything like that.
Each site has a ELAC, right? Like we have 7 groups. Right? Like in the sense of like having the person who they know, we have a person at most sites that works with our families that they're all comfortable with. And one of those people could support this thing.
So that could also be an option. I could work with your staff person, be there, kind of guiding and having them translate and then having them collect the information. So
But this would be by Zoom, this.
yes,
focus group?
correct. Yeah. And but if your families like to come in and be together more, if you have someone in person who can facilitate that with my participation virtually, that could work as well. So
I don't know if we have the staff availability.
We would certainly work on that.
Okay.
okay.
I mean, I think in person probably would be, I mean, do you have for Spanish speaking,
It would have to be virtual if it's
We have to
our
do virtual.
person, yeah.
Your person would have to be virtual, but like the hybrid version could happen. Is it right? Is that what I heard you say?
If with your
Like if they
staff,
came in and you were
yes,
answering.
no, I mean like the
questions.
participants, would they be virtual?
it would be one or the other.
Right, okay,
we
so they
do a
could be in
virtual
person.
group, or you could call them together. You could, sometimes they've got another family engagement kind of activity happening and we could do it then, but
I mean, in person tends to be better with, for, I would assume, versus virtual.
I think once you have the group, you can leave it up to them, right? Like,
Yeah.
I would
What is it?
propose, and this, as I'm looking at the ones that we already have recommended, is if we're talking about, I'm proposing for us to think about this, not saying it happened, but
Yeah.
but like ELAC leadership to me would be a similar group of people who can speak for those families in the same way that you have PTA leadership. So you're not saying all parents in, but these people who speak for parents. I would propose that group, those people, what I'm thinking of a few at the sites, do know the family's experiences.
Actually, right, so creating an ELAC group instead of,
Correct. That's again,
because then
yes,
they would have the pulse. That's
Yeah.
that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Okay, so to
April,
make
you-
sure I'm understanding, we'll work together for you to identify a time and then your person would do the outreach to gather the people together and
Also hire on translators. We have access to translators. We don't necessarily know those are the translators that came and did the translation for us during our.
I would
If I
just
may-
say if
oh.
it's not someone that they know, then I think we're just as well going with our person and doing it
Agreed.
virtually. So
Jackie, sorry, I thought that you were saying instead of doing Spanish speaking parents, you were talking about doing ELAC leadership focus group. Is that what you're?
That is what I'm saying. Yes.
Yeah, so instead of doing the families, trustee Bruno is proposing to do ELAC leadership.
And I actually think that's okay because ELAC, those representatives really work with the families at each school site.
Why they exist. yeah.
Very intimately. And I think that they actually would probably get more representation probably of their needs or their desires.
okay, so not the Spanish speaking parents, but rather the
The ELAC leadership,
Okay,
which is parents actually, right?
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily, okay.
It'll be a very similar group.
okay.
It'll be a very similar.
And virtual will be
That's based on-
okay with that?
Yeah.
English or in Spanish?
Most of our meetings are done in English. However, Spanish translation is important. We did hear that during our community meetings. So I think we can do some kind of a hybrid. I'm not sure that virtual or in person makes a
Are
difference.
the focus groups, are the meetings recorded? You said transcripts or something like that. Is that?
Oh, not for focus groups.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
We did hear again, if I'm thinking back to the community events, we heard from folks that specifically the survey we sent at that time was not translated, and that was a concern. So we might be resolving this just by having the survey translated. And if they're taking the survey in Spanish, they're able to self-identify as wanting to participate in a focus group virtually in Spanish.
The reason I'm making this proposal, and again, I'm responding to you, not defending
Yeah.
that my proposal is good. We can shoot it down. But I agree with that completely. And I think a translated survey gives the families the right to speak. And then there's these people who meet about those families' experience, and those people being part of a focus group is what I think would be valuable. Not necessarily whether it was in English or Spanish, but the people who work for those families, whether it be in education or lunch services or
Agreed.
academics, that's the work they do. And
And that-
that's why I'm proposing it, not about the language.
Okay, and that can be in English. Is that what I'm
Yes.
understanding? Okay.
Right,
Great.
right? They all speak
Okay.
English. Is that what you're saying?
Do you, I'm sorry?
We're
I,
for the most part.
for the most part,
Or your person can do it.
there are members of our community that would prefer interaction in Spanish, like full stop.
I
Yeah.
fully support it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Question and suggestion. Did you say that for any additional focus group we would like to do, as long as it's virtual, that is only $90? I would love to have an ELAC focused focus group, and also still try to do outreach to people who are more comfortable speaking in Spanish. And maybe that is that would not be virtual, and that would be a separate thing that maybe we could ask a liaison from the district to assist with. But I think we can, as long as you guys have the capacity, we can add more focus groups, and we don't have to debate exactly who can be invited to this focus group, because I think we could add another one.
Okay, so it will mean that the district is going to need to solicit people to participate in those groups, right? Because we don't have the capacity to send out a separate lottery form or something like that. So it will rely on your outreach to both of those groups. I'm going to say, rather than having you all see if you have staff available, let's go ahead and just do it virtually with our staff, the Spanish speaking group as well.
It's fine.
Because otherwise I just feel like it's going to take,
Some of our, again, I'm not thinking about specific people, all are invited, but there are a decent chunk of our Spanish speaking that actually live further away. So in person is just as much of a burden as it.
Yeah, that's fine. I like Trustee Northrup's idea. I don't know what the high overlap is. We can certainly investigate. And if there's just high overlap, then we
Yeah.
pick one or the other. But I like both. Maybe both will yield different impressions. I do feel like probably the ELAC representatives will have been with these families for a year or so. But yeah, I mean, one or two, it doesn't matter. We can see how much overlap there is. Okay. So we would add two more focus
correct.
groups.
Okay, a Spanish and an ELAC leadership.
Mhm.
Okay, great. Any others? Otherwise, let's move on. We got other stuff.
Oh, just curious, opinions on the board about the student focus group. Any, like, how do you guys feel about that?
Exactly. I was like, I think they're on vacation and we were a pretty young district. I think there's maybe space depending on, I think we said yes on the community panel, maybe at that point. But a group of 12 that were paring down to 6. I respect our students, and I want to hope that they trust us as much as their parents do, maybe more.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think they can trust us.
I agree. I just didn't want it to get like, lost in the shuffle.
Okay, so 2 more focus groups, and now let's move on to the last part that I'm going to cover, which is communication, logistics, and norms. And this is where we really need to make sure that we're clear about what we want to agree on, and that is we're your search consultants, and starting tonight, we want you to refer people to us. So if someone approaches you, says, I've got somebody, or I know this person, or I don't want this person, stop them, say, thanks so much, but we've hired these consultants, and I'm going to give you their contact information, and then you are more than welcome to, to reach out to them. Okay. So similarly, you might find someone who's interested in the position might contact you directly. Might be someone or someone who knows that a friend of theirs or something like that. If you get a contact like that, again, thanks so much for reaching out. We're going to put you in touch with our search consultants, and they'll be happy to, to hear your thoughts about someone that they should be recruiting. In terms of communication with us, between us, when we have a communication, we're going to send to you an email. We're going to address that to President Koss, and we're going to be BCCing the rest of the trustees, so that there isn't an inadvertent reply all. Okay. So we want everyone to have the same information. We're just going to structure it that way. You are welcome to reach out to us as individual trustees. If you have a question, you have something that you want us to be aware of, or you want to offer to us, and we will respond to you. And again, we will BCC the rest of the trustees, so everyone else is getting the same information at the same time. So any kind of in-person contact, conversational, send them to us. Any emails you get from other parties about the position, send them to us. And then in terms of you, when you want to reach out to us, we're here for you, and you can do that. If it's something that would benefit everyone, getting the same information, we'll make sure that y'all are also on the reply. And again, when we send out information, it'll say President Koss in the 2-line, and you all will get it as a BCC.
Do you have any general guidance around when? Because I've already gotten one that I haven't replied to, but a community member who wants to talk to a trustee, it's certainly not uncommon. We welcome that, right, when appropriate. And one of the agenda was like superintendent search. No idea more than that. But, I would think the guideline now that the link would be coming out on the survey is, thank you for willing to, like, wanting to meet with me. This is the best process to capture your thoughts.
Yes, agreed.
Would you
Yeah,
agree?
that would be the thing to do, is to
Kind of
say,
funnel them into what we've already organized.
yes, thank you.
Okay.
I was just going to ask, what if the survey window is closed? And then they come and then you just say like, I'm sorry, the survey window is closed, and
No, people
Oh.
can still offer, they won't be able to complete the survey, but certainly entertain outreach from whomever. Yeah.
Okay.
It's not that they are limited to, connecting with us to offer names or something within that survey window.
When you mentioned us reaching out to you, we should always send to all three of you. If I reach out with a question, should I always send it out to all three of you?
You can just send it to me, with the exception of, and I'll let you guys know when this is, there'll be a time when I'm off the grid, just a few days right around the 4th of July. So thank you. Luann will be the person who will be on deck to get your questions answered quickly. Other questions about communication, or is that reasonable? Do we have everyone's commitment that you'll not engage in conversations with?
Definitely. I just was looking for more information on the third bullet point of board emails regarding candidacy advocacy.
Yeah.
Could you tell us more about that?
Yeah, so you may get an email from a patron who says, I lived in this other district. They had an excellent superintendent. I really want you to think about them. I want to put them in touch with you to have coffee. Thanks very much. We've got a search firm. I'm going to pass this information on to them. Here's their contact information for you to reach out to them.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And if it's not already obvious, like it protects you as much as, right? You don't want to be in a position where you're doing that and then you're either accused of being unfair to other candidates that didn't have face time with you, or a candidate thinks that because they met with you, they deserve an interview because you had such a great conversation. So it's really the safest way is to just, yeah, gently. People seem to typically understand.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Can I turn it over to you now?
We're at the halfway point of the agenda now.
Well-
No, I mean, I'm saying,
That's all right.
We're not.
Just where we said we
We
would.
did, we did.
Yeah.
No, the next, Kathleen was very kind and gave me the quicker section. So, so let's go through a few more things, team. The first item is about internal candidates. So we, at this point, have no idea who the candidates are going to be. We don't know if there would be an internal. So this is in the abstract. We're not talking about individuals. We're talking about the abstract notion of an internal candidate. It is 99% of the time the case that a board would agree that any candidate, whether internal or external, is held to the same standard and goes through the exact same process as all external candidates. And it's always easier to talk about now at the beginning of the process so that we can all agree, but recognize what that means. That means that if a candidate who's internal advances, it's because they merit advancing. It's not because courtesy interviews, or friends or any of that stuff, so that everybody knows. And I already see people nodding, but I am going to ask one more time. If you nod, if you agree, there is the 1% of the time that boards say, no, let's try something new. But are you in agreement that every candidate, internal, external, goes through the same process as held? Jackie?
Yes.
Oh, yes. Okay, good, good, good.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I just didn't see you nodding, so I thought maybe you were holding out for the
That's a
1%.
roll call vote. I was like, oh, wow. April.
Thank you. Okay, parameters of candidate identification. So we've already been talking, I think, with a presumption, and I just want to confirm that this presumption is accurate, that you are engaging in a confidential process, that candidates' names will not be publicly disseminated at any point in the process until you have your one person that you vote on. Great, that's our expectation, that's what we were thinking, but now we're being official.
How do you refer to them then? As candidate A, B, C, D? Like, how do you do it?
In our closed session, we'll refer by name. And outside of closed session, we won't refer to them at all, right? Yeah. So in the closed session, you will certainly use their names, but yep, Trustee Netherop.
Sorry, are there, have you worked with any districts where, and, you know, just please let me know if this would be outside the norm, where the finalist names were announced?
I mean, that does happen in some searches. But we have found that if people know that their name potentially could be revealed, there are people who are less likely to apply. And so we feel like it limits the applicant pool.
Yeah.
That
Okay, good. Are we good? We're all good with that? Okay, great. I'm going to hold off on 9 and just go to 10 if I can, which is future agenda items, because it's possible that 1 or 2 might actually get resolved right now. But I want to walk through, see how fast we're moving through the agenda
yeah,
now?
because Hank's taking the lead.
Not at all. You gave me, stop. So, the next superintendent criteria, now is that a bullet point just for me to talk about what that is?
Just that is coming next, that is,
Okay.
That'll be the focus of your attention very shortly.
And I think I want to assume that it's reasonably clear, but why not, since it's on the agenda, just take a minute to just be really clear what it is. But at this point, I think I sense you're all getting it. So we have the focus groups, which we've talked about. We have the survey that we've talked about. We have the conversations with the trustees, and with our superintendent. And most importantly, with
Yeah.
our executive secretary. All of that input we get, and we crunch it, and we look at it, and we come back to you with a draft document called the next superintendent criteria. That's what that is, and that is your next big step. Your next step is to establish the timeline. But the step after that is that we come to you with this document. It is the community, we say, this is the board, this is what the community is saying that they want you to focus on in the superintendent. And we also believe that you are the electeds. So it's got to be your document. So typically boards want to be informed by their community, but you ought not accept it exactly wholesale because there are 5 elected trustees who are actually the decision makers. And so we would expect you to tweak it a little bit, or maybe a lot. So that's your next step in the process. Once that is approved by you, then we are ready to go out full scale recruiting and letting folks know, here's what the trustees are expecting of the next superintendent. Finalized timeline, I don't think I need to talk about. We've spent a lot of time talking about that. We're going to figure that out really soon and get that there.
For sure.
Salary range for the next superintendent. So that is actually, I think I'm going to turn that back over to you if I may, because I think you're closer to this work and I know the superintendent has been instrumental in helping.
So we need to have the salary range identified at the same time that we go out with the posting, because that sometimes is a question people have. And Superintendent DeGara has graciously agreed that he will serve as the person who provides the board with comparator information. Oftentimes, boards want to consider, okay, well, what are other superintendents in similar districts making, other districts of the same size in our region? And so he'll come back to you with information about what compensation superintendents in other districts are currently getting. It'll be a limited number. It'll be a half a dozen, maybe 9 or 10. And then you can look at that. And probably what you'll be looking at, I guess maybe you'll be looking at next school year's salary information as opposed to the past. Because sometimes you'll want to build in an increase if you're looking at data that's a year old, right? Because people will have gotten an increase. I think the important thing is to set a range to allow for compensation that would be in line with someone's experience if you're getting someone who hasn't been a superintendent before, and to be attractive enough that at this point in the year and where you are in the search, you want it to be attractive enough that people will look at it even if they're in a sitting superintendency, and it'll be a factor that people consider. Anything else you want to say on that?
I'll just add that President Koss had reached out to CBO Matsumoto to start that work. I came in on the coattails of some of that work, and we have that available. Yeah, it's this year's salary, but the next step is included as well. So you can just do that calculation.
Are we, so we maybe mentioned during the regular board meeting closed session, but that
So-
would be presented. Is that correct, Superintendent Dewar? Or is that or are we going to kind of,
So we'll
Sure.
facilitate,
You're gonna facilitate it.
during the next superintendent criteria review, we'll ask you to establish that range in that meeting, just by consensus. You don't have to have it as an action item in a board meeting.
okay,
I'm going to defer to you in terms of how you share that information and what people do with that prior to that meeting where it's discussed.
I can share it in tomorrow's board update if that makes sense
Great.
for everybody.
so that led to my question of just when I saw that originally,
Yeah.
when you passed it around, I didn't know when you needed that by, if there was, and I guess that'll depend on our finalized timeline, but also because it impacts posting, but just to make sure that we get you that range by the time you need it.
Yes, and so that is when we meet for for your approval of the next superintendent criteria.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that is when you
Yep.
need the salary range.
Yes.
Typically, I've seen salary ranges that are like up to 80 to 90,000 between the beginning and the end, or the minimum and the maximum.
Mhm.
And I've seen them more compact. What do you have any experience in terms of, does it matter?
I
That
think
range.
it does matter, because you don't want to be so low that you're just getting anybody applying. And you also want to give yourself room that you don't have to come in with the top. So I think typically in a district this size, we would be looking at a range that's, $35,000 to $50,000 maybe would be
$35,000 to $45,000 between the low and the high.
35 to
Yeah.
45? you said?
Yeah,
Okay.
35 to 50, yeah. And
Sure.
again, you may have some thoughts about that when you see the data. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Back to me.
yeah, back to you.
Just because I don't want this meeting to end, I'm going to insert a invisible bullet point right after salary range, which is the advertising budget. So we've talked about the fact that we do a lot of calling. We do our network of networks. Kathleen mentioned our e-blast that goes out to 40,000. There's no cost for those. We do think that there's some value in also traditional advertising. The superintendent has availed your HR department to post on the California sites, which are basically AXA and EdJoin and EdCal. So HR will work with HR to take care of that. I'm going to make a proposal right now. If this meets with the board's approval, let's just nod. If it seems like it needs to be a larger conversation, let's put this on also the agenda for the next superintendent criteria and salary. So I'm going to recommend a $1,400 budget, which includes NABC, which is the National Alliance of Black Superintendents and Educators, ALAS, which is the Association of Latino Administrators and Superintendents, CAPL, which is the California Association of Asian and Pacific Leaders in Education, and AASA, which is the National Superintendents Association. That all comes to $1,464. By far, the largest amount of that is AASA 849. The others are considerably less. If you're comfortable with the 1464, including a national, let's go with that. If you feel like you don't want that, I would say, I see a couple of thumbs up. Or do you want to have a conversation about this, which I would say, let's table this to.
Can you just broadly give, with the base, how many people are you reaching with the ones that's part of that versus the incremental?
I think the value,
Join and.
I think the value in the ones that Hank recommended is they are specifically going to be reaching
Diverse.
administrators of color or,
Great.
Yeah.
What do we think?
Are we good with that?
Yep, okay.
awesome,
Perfect, thank you.
great.
And we take care of that. We bill you only at cost, so your HR department doesn't have to do that.
Can I ask just a question out of curiosity? Is there not a women's group?
That's a
There was
great.
a national one in Oregon. We had a female leaders group that was statewide. I'm not aware of a national organization.
I think somebody needs to start one.
Yeah, for sure.
There are a couple of, I can think of 2 women's leadership and education organizations, but I am not aware of a job board on either of those websites. I will check that tonight.
Thank you.
Hank, did we get the Association of California School Administrators as well? AXA.
Yes,
Yeah.
although I might have called them AXA when I meant AXA, right?
Yeah.
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 So your HR department is going to do that.
Perfect.
Yep.
Yeah,
Thank you.
we really appreciate. Yeah.
Okay, a couple more things. So the residency requirement is not so common anymore, but it wasn't so many decades ago when school districts might insist that the next superintendent live within the jurisdiction. And some districts still do. In the Bay Area, it doesn't seem to be the case because really the cost of living is sometimes so prohibitive that you would lose candidates if you insisted they live in your jurisdiction. But I want to put that out there. Sometimes boards do say they don't have to live in their jurisdiction, but we need them to not be more than an hour away or not be more than 40 miles away. And so is this a conversation that the board would like to engage in at a meeting, or do you feel like it's not really such a big deal?
We are redoing the district office, so they could camp out. We could put like a, like, then they could be right there all the time.
I would be interested in us exploring something like a Bay Area residency requirement. I definitely would not think we'd want to limit it beyond that, but there have been stories in the news of people who are not in education, but in other things where they, do their job here for 3 days a week, but they don't actually have a residence here and they have a residence like out of state. So I think, again, the cost of living is prohibitive, but I think we need someone to be a California resident with a mailing address in the Bay Area, physical address in the Bay Area. Or
Yeah.
yes, or willing to. Or
'Cause I was
willing
gonna
to
say,
find one.
what if a
Yeah.
what if a
For sure.
candidate is out of state then, but is
But
willing-
willing, but are
Willing to
willing to
relocate.
relocate. Yeah.
That would be an expectation.
Yeah.
Not that they're currently, but that would be an expectation of the role. Okay, California.
Well, no, I mean,
Big
no,
thing.
we don't want somebody flying up personally. I
Right.
don't want somebody flying up from LA
Right.
Monday through Friday
Yeah.
and then going back on the weekend. I think they need to, my view is they need to be part of our community and our district and have a presence in the area. The Bay Area is fine. I mean, I don't know where that, how far geographically that extends,
Yeah.
but certainly Northern I mean, Bay Area.
Yeah.
Mhm. Okay.
Quick question. I think I already know the answer, but just, it's my first time. For candidates that are willing to relocate, I mean, they pay for their relocation, right? That's not,
Actually, when you get to the point where you've identified your lone finalist and you're entering into contract negotiations, if you've got someone from out of state, it's quite possible that the board would entertain some kind of relocation stipend to help defray those costs, because it is super expensive.
oh yeah, I know.
Yeah, I know
totally.
you do. You've moved a
So,
lot.
is that like, do we have ballparks on that?
I mean, it's your decision.
Yeah.
I don't think there would be an expectation that you would fully reimburse someone for all the costs of a travel and
Mhm.
real estate fees and all that stuff. But I think between 10 and 15,000 is not an unreasonable, but it's really, I mean, you get to set the decision.
Mhm.
And we'll see the posting on how you're putting the language, especially around the residency requirements, because I want to make sure, like, when we
Yeah.
say Bay Area, I wouldn't want it to not include maybe some areas within commute
Yeah.
reasonability.
So we wouldn't put it on the posting, but
Yeah.
we definitely address that in our recruiting conversations. And
Okay.
it's often a question people have,
Yeah,
is
of
there a
course.
residency requirement? Yeah.
For finalist interviews, if we are moving with someone from out of state, we foot the cost of bringing them in,
Sure,
right?
yep, absolutely, yeah. 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 Okay, just a couple more things. So this next one really gets to the question that Chair President Koss asked before, which is about the format for semifinal and final interviews. Given that you have established that you have a confidential process, really this question is about whether you want a confidential panel, which is what we had talked about earlier, and there'd been some conversation. So do you want to make time for that conversation right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because we'll build it into the timeline
Right.
if it's something you want, and we'll completely take that line out if
Right.
it's not. So.
I'm for it. I think we should do the panel.
I second.
Well, okay. So the only caveat, that because I think there's value to it, is putting my fiscal stewardship hat on, just to provide the angle, is if my rough math would be like, this would be a 7%, 8% of the total contract that would go for this one item. Am I,
It would be an additional cost.
that's what I'm saying.
Correct.
Yeah,
But
but it's
so-
representing about 7 to 8% of their
Could
contract.
you remind us how much it would cost to do the community panel?
$2,200. Yeah.
So I'm just saying that all of these are nice to have. There's a reason why it's optional and why some districts want it and some don't. And I'm not debating the value of it. I'm just wondering, is there enough of what, playing devil's advocate, is there enough of what we have, the activity levels that we have going on, the outreach that we have going on? Do we still want this? Again, I can see both. I'm just trying to, it's kind of like a bloated budget, it's like you don't You wanna, I'm just trying to be, is there meaningful value in this, in the scope of all the activity that we're doing? That's what I'm just presenting.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. I think we should consider and think it through. In my opinion, I think this kind of covers for people who maybe weren't paying attention closely to the opportunities to participate in the front end, and then can maybe, give those people the nice, warm and fuzzy feeling that they were able to have some kind of a,
But this is not just input. This is like, this could be really beneficial to us
oh, I
in
know.
terms of, no, but I'm saying like, this is the final, they're gonna meet the candidates.
Right.
Yeah, okay. So I mean, we would want to make sure that the panel was, we got a really robust kind of viewpoint from them.
Sorry. I think too, it's helping set up the next superintendent for success.
I mean,
Because, right, if the community panel interviews 4 people and we do pick one of those people, right, where we wouldn't announce it until the certain time, and right, but then, right, everybody who was on the community panel would be able to say to their friends and colleagues, I met the new superintendent. He or she is going to be amazing. And so you're already building that, you're helping that superintendent be successful by having them have that first contact with community members on a way that's not going to jeopardize them, hopefully, in their current jobs. It gets the community involved. And then, as I said, I think it, for example, which I shared, is when I was on a panel for a principal interview when I was not on the board, when I was just a parent and I was on a principal interview panel. That helped me with then having a good relationship with the principal when the principal was hired. Like I was part of the interview team for 4 candidates. We made a recommendation. We were not the deciders. We made a recommendation. It went to the superintendent and the board. They decided to hire somebody. But then when I went to go meet that principal, we'd already met.
what if most of the panel wanted a candidate that did not get selected? Do you still think that that's going to be
So-
well received?
We structure the feedback that we are getting from them in such a way that there isn't an opportunity for them to say, we think you should choose this person versus that person. And we specifically instruct them and get their agreement that they're not going to go out and say, well, that wasn't my first choice, or I think we had better, or anything like that. They are, they understand their role. They understand you're the decision makers, and
Any final discussion before we? No, Jack.
Well, I'll say a few seconds. On reading it, my gut says yes, and then on hearing you two talk about it, again, primarily Pacific Northwest, seems impactful. I like the idea of someone besides the board getting to speak to, connect with, hear from before we put something out. As just a general idea, no matter whether they speak about it or not. And I think that as an outsider, I would appreciate knowing that it existed. So I think focus groups is something kind of really early, right? Like next week, they're gonna say, here's what we want, and then it goes dark for a while. So I think having that touch point to our community, to any community, I think I like the idea of. I do think that it's a decent chunk of money, but I believe your recommendation and don't think you're redoing your kitchen with it when you're dividing it 3+ ways. I don't think it does much. So and I also imagine that what I'm getting is $2,200 worth of value out of our community feedback. And what I liked in whatever page that it said it is we're using the word community, and sometimes I hear that thinking about like the people I live next to. But I looked at this timeline wondering if administrators, district staff, people like that would actually have a voice in the process. And until this, I don't see it. So like without this here, I don't see where they would. Again, outside of the focus group. So I want to be clear, it is there, but there's an opportunity in there for, like, I really do wonder how the people who work for you feel about you. And this gives me an opportunity, somebody who will work for that role, hopefully, to be part of that panel. And I think that,
There are
that
districts that build in an opportunity for cabinet, for example, to.
yeah,
It's different than a community panel. Their feedback might be different.
but the panel's made up of
It's
a variety of
it's
stakeholders.
typical.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Like, is it typically a variety of stakeholders, or is it like primarily parents, or is it like
Oh, it's a variety.
yeah? So
Yeah.
like
So they'll, I mean,
that part
you
scratches.
can
the
say
itch.
we want one of the 12 to be an administrator and they're there to kind of represent, you know.
Okay, so I don't think this, I don't know if this is necessarily a voting process, but let's go. Right, but let's go with, so you're for it. You're yes.
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 Okay, it's fine. I'm yes.
Great. Thanks. I'll build it in on the revised timeline. You bet.
Super.
Yeah.
So the last piece is, I think it's mostly a reminder of kind of the reference check, background check process. So some of this you've already heard, but I think it's worth repeating. So when candidates apply, they will indicate as part of the application, one person that we are allowed to call right now. We ask, we don't require, we ask that that person be someone who has seen the application, you'll notice whether they gave us somebody who had been in the supervisor's perspective or not. You should weigh that, like to weigh that. Nonetheless, once we as a team have identified those candidates that we think are the strongest correlators to your next superintendent criteria, we will then conduct a reference check on those. Let's just say there's 10 candidates. We will do a reference check on the individual that they have identified. And as Kathleen said earlier, it's like, it's early in the process. It's not really fair to be calling everybody and their brother on someone who just submitted an application. So those tend to be very favorable, not always,
Mhm.
believe it or not, but they
Yeah.
tend to be more favorable because those are folks who the candidate has self-selected. The next stage of the process with respect to reference and background checks is that part where we will ask board members if you will participate in the reference calls at the finalist stage. So you let's say finalists, we will say, board members, are you willing to make 1 or 2 or 0 phone calls? And usually there's a mix. Usually there's a trustee that says like, I just can't, or I'm really uncomfortable with it. And usually there's a trustee that's like, give me as many as you need. We have, I think, one board at one point said, we don't want to do it at all. You guys do it all. So you don't have to decide that right now. We'll come back to that at the time when you identify your finalists. We'll ask who's willing.
Yeah.
And then the background checks, which are the third party, which is a true investigative background check, looking at everything from criminal records and civil records and various county courts and all those things. We recommend that you do on all of your finalists. Occasionally a board says, no, we'll just take our chances and do it on the top person. So that's a decision you can make later on. So a little bit of risk if you only do it on your top person, but
And how much are those? Do you remember?
those I believe
14
are
or
17.25.
Okay.
So yeah, they're not, I mean,
Per candidate?
they're not cheap.
1725 per candidate?
Yeah, but it is incredibly comprehensive and you will. Yeah.
Is there an agency that does it for you on your,
Yes. Yeah.
that's tied into all the databases, FBI, whatever it is? Okay.
Okay, I'm turning it back over to our leader.
Oh, gosh, I think we've been through the entirety of the agenda. We didn't quite accomplish the timeline, but I think we'll do that in short order. And before we close, any question that we haven't answered, anything you need to know more about? Yeah.
And I totally appreciate all of the work you guys are going to do and everything you're going to do to help us find candidates. Is there a possibility of in links to resumes or something where just we have the opportunity to consider every candidate. And if that ends up being 100 people, then I will regret my request, but
Yes.
yeah.
So prior to that slate meeting, that's when you'll have that block of time, whether it's 7 days or 12 days or whatever we land on, where you will have access to all the applications. So not just the people we conducted those preliminary checks on, preliminary interviews and telephone reference checks, but and you may say, hey, this person looked interesting to me. Tell me your thinking about why. And then we'll say, well, we did a Google search, you know, in the first 5 pages, something popped up that was concerning. And so they didn't pass go or, you know,
When you're making your recommendations, what kind of information, like to that point, do you kind of give us, like your rationale for how come they made that select group of first round candidates?
you know, we can, I mean, some boards like to come to that themselves. Others ask us to come in and say, which do you see as the strongest? And then we will often say, we'll kind of give an overview. We won't necessarily like interject a lot of our opinion in it, but we'll say this person presents as an experience this, or they have expertise in that, or, you know, they had an exceptionally strong letter of recommendation, or so we'll kind of share that level.
Yeah, I think the more level, the more, I mean, for me, I think that's the value of your expertise and your search firm, and just seeing so many hundreds of candidates that on paper, I might be looking at something that I might be swayed by, and I can still be swayed by it, but I would really value your kind of a glance at what you think. I mean, that's my personal, but I feel like that's the value.
Yeah, so, and a conversation you might want to have before we get to that
Fair enough.
is, so if there are 10 candidates, there are sometimes, as Kathleen was, I think, alluding to, like, that we actually tier those 10 candidates.
Oh, okay.
We could,
Oh,
or we could not.
Yep.
It's kind of what you would prefer.
Okay.
But certainly any candidate that didn't make the top 10, you say, well, what's your rationale? We're going to give you our rationale. And despite that, it's your search. So it is not impossible that a board could say, hey, what about this candidate you didn't interview or you didn't recommend? And if that is one of your top candidates, then we pause, everybody goes and looks at that application. And it's not typical, but it has happened now twice where a board has decided to advance a candidate who was not part of our recommended team. And we're fine with that because it's your search. It's your search.
Great. Great.
I want to make sure I'm hearing it right. So when I say preliminary interviews and reference calls, you're only doing that on candidates that you think are worth a reference call. So you're not actually doing a reference call on every candidate that you give to us to review. And so to some level, I could just, by basis of the absence of a reference call, I would know how you felt about that one without looking at ranking necessarily. That I could assume that by absence of a reference call, you could just like, all right, they didn't think this one necessarily was worth that. But
Yeah.
It's all very visual. It's in columns.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You'll be able, when you open up the application, you'll clearly see, okay, this is the group
That
didn't-
applied
that
and,
applied. This one got advanced.
yeah.
there we go. Yeah, if we're saying it, I think I would prefer to review material without your ranking.
Okay.
I'd say that.
So what
And
we
then I
would-
want to hear it at the slate of candidates session. I would love to hear your rankings then, just to pat myself on the back or be humbled.
So just to clarify, we still would have it delineated which 10 or 8 or whatever we do prelims on, you would know who that was and that you could find a video and okay. Okay, well, anything else for the good of the order? Just thank you all so much for your time.
I have 35 minutes. Do you want to do it?
Well, that's up to
I have the
you.
room until, no, I'm just kidding.
You've got us as long as
It's
you
okay.
need us, but
No, we're good.
imagine you have lives you're
Thank-
eager to get
thank
back to. So much so.
Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. And it was wonderful to spend time with you.
Thanks for all your hard work to date.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Just a favor, I think we'll probably talk between now and early morning. If you can just check email in the morning to kind of
Mhm.
look at next steps and maybe weigh in on a proposed timeline?
So I will give that to you tomorrow when we meet, and if you could then take it from there and get
Perfect.
agreement around specific dates.
Perfect.
All right.
Perfect. Check your email a few times tomorrow if you can, and I'll text you as well.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Um,
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, I mean, that's it, right? Do we have any? I think we can adjourn. Okay, we can adjourn, 8:33 PM.